Okay, my intention now is to make an attack across the river, and it's going to be a mobile attack again against this isolated unit. It's isolated because of the zones of control. I think that should be enough to help me. I'm not going to go into the details of the attack. I think we saw enough of the system there for that. I just want to kind of give you an idea of the plans. And then once I make that strike, I'm not sure where to go. I'm thinking up here to isolate, well, up here to isolate this unit. This is not a supply or mobilization, so I think they're affected by that. And then maybe I can strike with the Hungarians to the north and make an attack in that direction. We'll see how that works. Remember, what I can't do is I can't attack here, move up here, declare an assault, and get the advantage for, bringing multiple units in play. But I don't think that's going to be vital in this situation. I think I'm able to kind of isolate units and make my strikes and do what I want to do, even with the weaker units. We'll see. And it took 2 hits. That means I'm not going to have the points to, say, make an attack on this unit anyway. But I do have enough movement left to position myself where I want to be, which is right here. Well, the Hungarians spent all their movement moving up and attacking 3 times, basically. They managed on the 3rd try to actually get a result. The first couple, because they only got the +2 for the isolated Russian. And in a sense, they got kind of lucky because they got a very bad roll, but then the Russians didn't get a good one. That puts me on my next move, and I'm not quite sure what to do here. I spent my only Hungarian point, which is fine. I don't have any additional replacements. I could have spent one of these events. I didn't want to. I thought I had enough of an advantage. Turned out I didn't. Now I want to try and launch a similar attack through here, but this is going to be rough. I don't know. I can't really budge this very easily. Don't really have troops in the way, and that's going to be hard because he's supported everywhere. He's got I don't know, because the terrain gives what, a -1, right? I think for the mountain. Yeah, it's got the rough terrain. That's a -1. -1 total, not -1 for each. Well, I'll think about it a little. Well, again, it took the Germans a couple of attacks, but they finally took this. Now, the Russians withdrew into Rostov, which may have been a good or a bad move. Here's the thing. If they retreated here, protecting this unit, then Rostov would be open and the Germans could have slipped in or disrupted the air unit. By moving here, though, the Germans attacked this unit, and it has no eligible retreat that I can tell. I don't think I can cross the sea area. Although, I'd better check that. And what they got was a DD, which damages the unit and then forces it to retreat. Now, if they can't retreat across the sea area, they've got nowhere else they can legitimately go. I'll check that and make sure, but I don't believe they can. The reason that I'm kind of iffy is because of these dot spaces are the prohibited zones. I don't think you can just cross from there, but I'll see how the rules are handled on that. Indeed, that would be prohibited. So this is another destroyed Russian unit. We're taking a lot of losses here. This German unit's done, and there's no enemies under control. Now, I could advance here, but I don't want to. I like where I am. This allows me to cut this unit off by moving up here. I'll have to go here and then here and get it isolated. Get further breakthrough that way. And, well, it doesn't really provide me any support into Rostov for the Romanians. That's kind of troubling, but yeah, there's only so much you can do. I don't know what the defensive for a city is. It's just a -1. So that's not too terrible. How are these worded? It's -1 each. City or rough, mountain or river. Where's a mountain hex side? I guess that's this brown stuff here. Yeah. Alright. That's kind of ugly. Yeah, I want to stay there. And I think I'll try to slide around here, and then we'll see what we can do with those reserves to fill in our lines, basically. Or maybe not move them, because they can build up their production for a more exciting action where they might actually be able to do something. Right now it doesn't look like they're going to be able to. Just as I spent the German units points, I had to remember, wait a minute, I've got to spend them. You know, this is a Russian unit here, not a German one. I've got to spend the points. If you don't spend them in a turn, you lose them, and there's nowhere to spend them. The Germans can upgrade their air points, but the Italians and Romanians cannot. So I've got to spend whatever they've got, and the Romanians have a couple of points to spend with just an infantry unit. So they could actually attack, take a loss, and still recover that. So maybe they'll make an assault. We'll see. Anyway, on to the Germans. What I'm going to do here is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 attack, and we'll see where we go from there. So the Germans dislodged, destroyed that unit, another dead unit in there. Moved in here to displace the air unit. It gets to fly away for free because it's already at 6 sorties. But I can't attack here. I don't have enough movement points. It's going to take 2 to move into the city plus 1 for the attack. I only have 2 left. I do have enough to shift over to here or here. I like this position better for defensive location. And we'll see what I can do with those other units. They can kind of possibly move the Romanians here. They can come 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They can move to here, cut off and isolate this unit, I believe. Do an assault. No, they can't do an assault because they won't have the movement points for it. But they could isolate the unit for an Italian attack. For the Italians, it's not so easy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's just not going to work there. So I'm not sure. Well, I slipped my Romanians around the back to get that isolation, made an assault, or made an attack with the Italians. That used up 7 of my movement points. I threw in this ground support chip. It didn't move anything. I basically don't have enough points to do anything. I'm going to stay here because that's as good a location as any, I think. And I've got this ground support. I've got to figure out where that goes. That's going to be in the 7 lookup rules. I'm sure there's somewhere where it tells me what happens with the events, doesn't it? Yeah, it tells me what happens, but it doesn't tell me how easily they recover. Ground support, after the combat roll a die, it goes that many turns later. Yeah, that's what I thought. That's possibly very painful. So we're looking 5 turns later from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for more ground support to come back. Now, I still got 1, but that's just for the minor allies. But it definitely improves their ability to actually act. Anyway, that looks like it's it for the Germans, and we're going to go on and see what the Russians can do in response. They've got some serious problems in terms of units that are going to be out of supply if they're not careful, right? Alright, having trouble deciding how to defend yet, and I feel like I have to learn more of the rules again to kind of understand best how to handle that, to really get a grasp of more of the game that I've got so far. But I think I screwed up with this unit. I don't think he was isolated. The isolated rules say a USSR unit in any hex on the northeast or south map edge is never considered isolated. There's a little bit of weird twisting going on here. For example, over here in the Crimea, and that may make sense, is sort of a German supply source, but not a place where you can mobilize. You can mobilize over here. And likewise, this is not a supply or mobilization location, but somehow the Russians have a free retreat available up there, which makes them unisolated. That's kind of twisted to me. I'm going to let it stand for now, but I won't make that mistake again. I'm not sure even that the Russian unit wouldn't have been damaged under those conditions. But it certainly changed. I wouldn't have made the actions I did if not to isolate that unit, essentially. Anyway, I'll work more on the Russian stuff. Right. Another thing I missed during the German turn, the supply check phase, this guy's not in supply. He can't trace a 2-hex supply line to a railroad net that'll get him anywhere. I was hoping to take this city. It didn't happen, and now I've got a penalty for defenses on this unit and for attacking as well, which is going to be painful. Not really comfortable with how the Russian defenses are lining up. I've moved the armor unit down here from Fornez, made an attack across the river, hit the Romanian unit. It used up another one of those Axis ground support units, and that went 4 turns into the future. Took this hex that allowed me to isolate the unit, attack it into here, and then move the extra hex here. And this is all the defensive line I have. Now, I'm going to be able to build units here or in some other areas, but I don't really want to spend 2 of my production points to move my armor, just even for a repositioning. I'm not really sure it gives me much gain, but it feels like the Germans are just going to be able to smash through me if I don't. I'm going to leave it as it is, see what turns out. It's an interesting system, and it's going to show, well, what kind of hull there is there. Because the Germans have to stay within range of the supply there, and there's a fairly formidable Russian force built up there. So let's take a look at where we go after that. Well, first of all, we have to check the Russian supply, and this guy picks up a low supply marker as well, which may be a problem. Now, after that, we go to the no supply segment. Nothing's in no supply yet. And then we go to replacements. And at this point, first the Axis, and the Germans have a couple of points to upgrade, I guess, their air power a little bit. They didn't really take any losses. And the Romanians can rebuild their unit. But other than that, there's not really a lot that needs to be done for them. The Russians, on the other hand, have a humongous amount of things that they can rebuild. And remember, once I get close to Grozny, there's this conditional entry, and there's a nice little marker of that line there. Well, I wasn't careful enough. It takes 3 to improve my air unit's sortie capability. So it looks like the Germans are going to be without air support in this upcoming phase, and that's got to be ugly for them. I'm going to cheat a little bit here because these guys aren't available yet. The eliminated units, and in fact, this one's not either. The eliminated units slip into the mobilization pool at the turn marker segment. They don't actually become available. That means the Romanians can't rebuild their unit, actually. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend a couple of points, because I wasn't really thinking, to move the Russian armor up to here along the Don. I know it's not the safest of places, but I don't really have a good location. I don't want to put him in front of the river line, and then instead of building this guy here, I'm going to build him back here. Now, I'm kind of regretting how far back I flew my airplanes, but I wasn't really planning on that, and I'm not going to cheat that much. Obviously, I think I'm making some huge mistakes throughout this, but, well, that's okay. I mean, we're kind of trying to learn a system here that's very new. So now, nobody's won. Nobody has all the factories. So we move the turn marker a turn forward, and we're going to see some new units going, I believe, into the mobilization pool. I'll hold off on putting them until then. And then all these slide down, which means next turn we can see a lot more Russian units going. And of course, these are all, I think, units that were in the variable pool here. So the August 42 could have been in the entry V. The way that works, if I can remember, is you roll a die at the beginning of the scenario. and divide the result by 2, and it'll be that many turns later. Now that's rounded up. So this is kind of the best of possible worlds in terms of when those would be available. Of course, that's both German and Russian units. And where do they come in? Well, these guys are going to come in on the west side of the map, the 2 German units, whereas most of the Russians are going to go in the upgrade or mobilization box. They're just more troops that can be built or placed on the board as upgrades. Alright, well that looks like it's the end of the first turn. And I'm doing this in 2 videos for 1 turn. We're not going to do this much detail again, but I think it's not too bad. And I'll probably redo the intro now that I'm getting a better feel for the actual rules to it. Alright, up it goes.